For the next 10 minutes or so, Deanna and I are going to introduce you to Skin and Bones, a mobile app that we developed for the Natural History Museum at the Smithsonian. And we'll give you some background on the mobile app and show a few examples from the mobile app and give you some glimpse on how we pulled it off, if you will. And then we'll end with a few thoughts on the future of augmented reality for museums. We designed Skin and Bones with a very simple aspiration, and that was to improve the visitor experience for a classic exhibit at Natural History that we call the Bone Hall. We thought we could do this by increasing visitor enjoyment, strengthening visitor memories, and increasing their dwell time in the exhibit. And this is an important point. We had to do this without touching the exhibit. Skin and Bones is a platform for visual storytelling and for wow 3D imagery that interacts with skeletons in the displays of the hall. But before we peel back the layers of the app, we'll walk you through 134 years of Bone Hall history. This is the Bone Hall as it appears today. It's a parade of 300 vertebrate skeletons. And this is the mammal room in the hall. And then beyond that is a bird room. And beyond that, a reptile and amphibian room. And then it ends with the fishes room. So it's a parade of vertebrates, from fish to mammals. Some Bone Hall displays were first displayed in 1881 in the first U.S. National Museum. And they opened that museum, and some of the skeletons in this photograph from 1881 are in our Bone Hall today. Fast forward 30 years, the bone exhibit moved to the Natural History Building. And if you look at the vitrine in the center here, it has a human, a chimpanzee, a gorilla, and an orangutan. And fast forward again 53 years to 1964, and the Bone Hall moved to where it is today on the second floor of the Natural History Building. And these are the same specimens. And they're not quite as upright as they were in 1911. They're in more natural poses. And the branches of the trees are fake. But essentially, it's the same exhibit from the 19th century. And so not much has changed, but this exhibit has survived across 3 centuries. And I have to ask the question, why would anyone tamper with it? 3 centuries of exhibitory excellence. Why would anyone touch it? I think this case, this is a good example of a case that hints at why you might want to tamper with this exhibit. I call this case Philosophizing on Goat Suckers. And I'll read you a brief excerpt from the introductory label on that case. And it reads, they are either schizognathous or desmognathous, and most have basipterygoid processes. Now, if that doesn't capture the essence of goat suckers, and goat sucker kin, I can't write better than that. So, but the fact is, in that hall, our visitors on average make 3 stops for 9 seconds. And 9 seconds is just long enough to read a phrase like that and realize that you want to be at some other place rather than looking at a basipterygoid process of a goat sucker. Okay, back to Skin and Bones. This is the splash screen to the app, and it sets the visitor expectations for the kind of experience that they will have. It's in comic form. You have a bison that winks at you and sticks its tongue out at you, and may make you begin to realize that something special might happen. The app is simply laid out with a map for navigation. You can touch any one of the 13 skeletons on the map to pull up the main screen for one of those. Oops, let me go back. Jumped ahead. There we go. Oops. And so the vampire bat is a representative screen that shows the offerings of the app. The screen shows all the themes under which the content types are arranged, including streaming video, augmented reality, and interactives. Animal Life is a video about the lives of vampire bats. Meet the Scientist is a video interview that gets at the personality of the scientist, not the research of the scientist. And as you might guess, Skeleton Works brings AR, augmented reality, to the skeleton. Big Ideas investigates echolocation across animal groups, and Activity is an interactive that tests user skills at recognizing bat calls and echoes. And with that, I'll let Deanna take over.
We wanted audio to be an immersive and important part of Skin and Bones, so we consulted with an audio expert, and we collaborated with a number of artists, performers. So a violinist, a conga player, a journalist who's also a philosopher, gospel music expert, an actress. So they all lended their voices and their expertise in audio mixing and audio recording to Skin and Bones. So each of their voices was recorded in the Bone Hall. Each of the tracks begins with ambient sound from the hall, and then it moves on to the voice of the human narrator or the environmental sounds of relating to the animal, and then the track ends again in the hall with ambient sound from the hall. So these subtle transitions are a way to transport the listeners between the different places. And the decisions about the audio tracks and the mixes were all left to the audio producer. He had complete freedom to interpret and be inspired by the scripts that were given to him. So let's play a couple of pieces, short, here detached from their visuals.
The eastern diamondback rattlesnake is one of only 20 venomous snakes living in the United States. That is a small number compared to all the venomous animals living among us, in our homes and gardens, nearby woods, and places to swim. Have you heard drumming coming from deep in the woods?
Video was also produced by artists who were free to create sequences of imagery and animations at their discretion, as long as it didn't misrepresent scientific ideas or inaccurately depict the organisms. And they all created these videos using assets under Creative Commons licenses. So here's pieced together a few video excerpts.
My mom tells an interesting story of one afternoon she was taking a nap, and I was about 2.5 or 3, and she put me behind her on a sofa, and I had a little pair of scissors, and she gave me a piece of newspaper. And when she was finished with her nap, I had taken that newspaper and cut it into a rhinoceros, and one of the O's and one of the story headlines I'd made into the eye of the rhinoceros and cut the rest of it out. So I had this little paper doll rhinoceros, and that was when I was 3.
Once prey is spotted, the anhinga darts its head forward, and its sharp serrated bill spears right through the fish. Carrying its impaled prey, the bird swims to the surface and flips it into the air before swallowing it head first.
A katydid rests motionless on the underside of a leaf, one of thousands of leaves on a tree. The insect doesn't make a peep. The night is black. A leaf-nosed bat flying nearby blasts the tree with sonar at ultrasound frequency, then listens. It sees the katydid with the echo created from sonar and swoops in for the kill. No human-made sonar equipment can detect objects with such finesse.
Skin and Bones also uses augmented reality technology, and one of the advantages to AR is how well this technology enables merging the object with its description or interpretation into a focused, integrated experience. Labels become unnecessary distractions when AR is present. The augmented reality experiences in Skin and Bones consist of both static and animated 3D models that represent the external anatomy of the animals or highlight particularities of their functional anatomy or convey evolutionary concepts. These 3D models are superimposed onto the skeletons on the displays. The artists involved, including myself, used a range of methods to generate these models. So we built them from scratch, we used different ways of scanning, and source the collections of the museum, not just for inspiration, but also for scientific facts check. For example, we went to the lengths of dissecting 3 woodpeckers to understand better how their tongue works. So I will open Skin and Bones now and show you a little more of what I'm talking about. So here's the app. We're in the app right now, in the map. And I'm selecting the woodpecker main page where we see the same offering that Robert showed us early. So I'm now going to select the AR dimension, skeleton works, which brings us to the camera turning on, and you can see the camera on. So let's pretend that we're in the bone hall. I could not bring the woodpecker skeleton, but I did bring a photograph, so let's just pretend we're there.
Holy moly.
Pileated woodpeckers are specialists at drilling holes in trees and probing for food with their long tongues. Their tongues are powered by muscles that attach to a long, thin bone. One end of the bone inserts into one of the nostrils on the face. Then the bone wraps all the way around the skull until it reaches the tip of the tongue. This thin and flexible bone is called the hyoid. It is protected inside a lubricated casing, like the brake cable on a bicycle. As muscles pull on the casing, the hyoid propels the tongue forward to probe for food. Other muscles can retract the bone and tongue. These 2 movements can happen extremely rapidly. Among birds, woodpecker tongues are in a class all their own.
We placed 2 handouts outside that you can use to take home, and if you download Skin and Bones to your own iPhone or iPad, you can repeat the same augmented reality experience, and one additional one. Robert.
Thank you. We'd like to end this talk with a few thoughts about the future of augmented reality in museums. Frankly, I wish I had the answers. But there are some obvious trends that we can look to. Cameras on mobile devices are vastly improved, and object recognition is making enormous advances. QR codes, barcodes, and markers are now artifacts of the past. Object recognition can ignore color, use edge detection, and deep machine learning can help us recognize complex shapes. Museums are 3D scanning collections and 3D printing, and it's possible to have a museum collection at home or in the classroom. and with augmented reality providing context through magic making. Books and magazines already use AR, so why not museum catalogs? Why not repair aging exhibits with mobile devices using AR? Why not make AR accessible to low-sighted and blind people? It's so cost-effective to do this. So I want to leave you with this last thought. Without touching a bone, the bone hall could change into an art gallery. We could run a competition for artists to create 3D digital displays alongside or on the skeletons. One visitor may choose a science and nature experience using skin and bones, another an art exhibit only using art and bones. And a third visitor choosing not to use a mobile device will see a Victorian age exhibition, much as it would have been just 22 years after Darwin published Origins of Species. And all three in the same space and time. Thank you so much.